Hello, this video is all about Losant's Edge Agent. Edge workflows run on your own gateway hardware and are executed by the Losant Edge Agent. So, the very first thing you need to do before you can deploy an Edge workflow is install and configure the Edge Agent. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. With that comes some prerequisites. In order to install the Edge Agent, you must have some knowledge of the command line, Linux, and Docker. Since the Edge Agent is typically installed on gateways, the installation process is typically done via the command line, and a little background on this goes a long way. So, this is not exactly true, but you can think of the Edge Agent as a mini version of the workflow running we have in the cloud. Its job is to execute workflows locally on the device. Because Losant doesn't control the devices that run the Edge Agent, and we don't control when the Edge Agent itself gets updated on these devices, we keep a very thorough changelog. This changelog is the documentation. It represents all the changes to the agent since its initial release. All this is so that when you upgrade, you know exactly what's changing with the Edge Agent. We also do careful testing to ensure the agent is backwards compatible, so when you update, your workflows don't break. To help with that further, we use the versioning system called semantic versioning. It is a very easy system to follow for you to know what's changing when you upgrade. In this system, the version is represented by 3 numbers. When the first number changes, it means it's a major change, typically breaking. When the middle number changes, it's a minor non-breaking change. The last number is just patches, which are non-breaking. The big thing to remember here, if you see a major version change, take a careful look at the changes as they may require you to change something within your workflows. All this is to ensure that workflows can run properly on your Edge gateway and hardware. Now, let's talk about what kind of devices can run the Edge Agent. Generally, any Linux-capable device can run the Edge Agent. The minimum specs we require are the same specs of the Raspberry Pi 2. In the docs, you can see all of the devices we have tested for support in our Edge Lab. When you are thinking about devices, the minimum specs of the device you need are directly tied to the number of workflows that it's processing at a given time. A higher number or more complex workflows will require more juice, so keep that in mind. The Edge Agent is shipped as a Docker container. If a device can run Docker, there is a very high chance that it will be able to run the Edge Agent. While the expectation is that you'll be running on an IoT-style device, the agent can also run on OS X and Windows. This is really helpful for testing. So now let's talk a little bit about why Docker. Docker was chosen as the way to distribute the Edge Agent for a few reasons. One, no matter the hardware, we can ensure the environment in which the Edge Agent runs with Docker. Two, it makes it really easy for you to install and upgrade the agent because it's all containerized. And lastly, Docker takes care of many of the things we need for the Edge Agent, like process isolation, running on reboot, and much more that Docker itself provides. All right, let's move on to getting the actual agent installed. Currently, in my terminal, I am connected to a gateway we have in our Edge Lab. This device is running Ubuntu and has the latest version at the time of recording of Docker installed. The first thing we need to do is sudo docker pull Losant Edge Agent. This command will pull the Edge Agent image from Docker Hub. Because everything is packaged within the container, you don't have to install anything else on the host machine. Before we run this image, we need to create a storage area for the Edge Agent to use. We can do that using this command. We also need to give that directory the proper permissions using this command. Next, we need to create a config file. This config will contain all of the options you can configure for the Edge Agent. For now, I'm just going to put in here the absolute minimum you need, and we'll talk about other configuration later. In this case, it's just an ID, key, and secret. It's the same information you need to authenticate a device to Losant. But notice one thing. We haven't created a device yet for our gateway. Let's do that. In our application, we can create a new device. In this case, we can create an Edge Compute device. edge compute devices can run edge workflows directly on the device itself. They are the only device type that can be configured with the edge agent. They also can behave as gateway devices in that they may report state on behalf of a peripheral device. Once you create a device, we get an ID. I'm going to add that to my config file. Next, we need to create a security key secret for this device. Then I can add that to my config file as well. Now that our configuration is complete, we can start the Edge agent. For those unfamiliar with Docker, let's break down this command a bit. So first, Docker run is Docker's command to run an image. We are also passing it a bunch of parameters. -d just means run this container in daemon mode. --restart always is Docker's way of saying restart this container if it fails and if the machine restarts. --name is just so we can give our container a name. -v is the parameter to pass in volumes into the container. In this case, we need to give it our storage directory and our configuration file. Lastly, we specify the image we want to run. Overall, the Docker documentation is awesome. If you would like to dig deeper into these commands, please start there. Once we run this command, the Edge agent is running. You can confirm this by looking at your device status within Losan. Along with that, Edge compute devices also have their own device settings. In it, you can see the current Edge agent version that's installed on this device, currently deployed workflows, and deployment logs. All of this is helpful information once we start publishing workflows. Now that our Edge agent is running, let's cover some details. First, we only use 3 of the many config options that the Edge agent supports. To see all the various config options, please take a look at Docker Hub. For example, you can change the logger level for more verbose logging. You can configure a UDP address to allow Edge workflows to be triggered with UDP. You can actually turn off the ability to queue messages offline, and you can configure a bunch of details about the Edge agent web server, which allows you to trigger a workflow with a local HTTP request. Next, let's talk about some helpful Docker commands. As you use and run Docker, here are some commands that may be helpful to you as you are running the Edge agent: Docker run, Docker ps, Docker stop, Docker restart, and Docker logs. I use all of these commands frequently when running the Edge agent. Okay, that is all for installing the Edge agent. In the next video, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Edge workflows and how deployment works. As you go along, remember that the docs and forums are there to help if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.